last time I uploaded a video on this channel, I was 17. And now I am an adult. So it's been a long time. But I haven't been doing nothing. In fact, I would say I probably like bugs more than I ever have. In the past 5 years, I got a degree in biology. I became a published researcher, and I've worked a couple real jobs as a biologist. But before I went to college, I had to sell all of my hobby insects so that I could move into a dorm. And even when I did this, I always said I probably would return to insect keeping at some point in time. And I didn't know when that would be, but it looks like it might be today. So over the past couple weeks, I have been collecting adult eastern Hercules beetles, Dynastes tityus. These have always been one of my favorite beetles, but I always had a lot of difficulty catching them where I grew up on the eastern shore of Maryland. They just weren't that common around there, and it may be because the trees there were generally more pine than hardwood, at least in my experience. But I've moved, and they're actually not too hard to find now, at least where I work, and I can drive pretty easily to go catch them as well, and it helps being an adult with more freedom too with that. The first beetle was found longer ago than the other two. I found it behind my building at work, and it seems like where I work there's actually a lot of eastern Hercules beetles living in the woods nearby. So when I show up first thing in the morning, I kind of like to walk around the building, check under the lights, and I've actually found a lot of dead beetles this way. Some really cool stuff, but I've only had luck with one live beetle so far. And then the other two, I looked on iNaturalist and I found a hotspot of observations of beetles. And then I made my girlfriend drive with me for 2 hours in the middle of the week to go collect beetles, which I'm very grateful that she did for me. And I ended up with one dead Lucanus elephas, which is the elk stag beetle female. I was hoping to actually find live ones of those, which was the main point of the trip, but I only found one dead one. And then I was able to find 2 live female eastern Hercules beetles. So now I have 3. I wasn't able to find any males, but that's fine because for breeding, obviously females are the only ones that will be laying eggs. And when you catch them wild caught, it's pretty safe to assume that a lot of the time they're already fertilized and will just lay eggs in the right environment. So today I set up a tank for them to hopefully lay eggs. I've had them for about a week or 2 now in this tiny little tank that really is not big enough for them. So I was hoping they weren't too stressed out, but I was waiting for a flake soil order to come in, and it finally arrived. So I poured all 3 bags of the flake soil in the tank. I'm pretty sure it's a 5-gallon tank, 5.5 gallon, and I had 3 gallons of flake soil for 3 beetles. Hopefully it's not too cramped for them. It may be a little cramped, but all I need is some eggs, and then I'll be good. And when I was setting up the beetle cage here, my roommate actually came in and asked if she could hold them. So here's some B-roll footage of her holding the beetle, which I thought was cool. You can really see just how beautiful these insects are. I've always loved eastern Hercules beetles. Some of my fondest memories as a kid were just stumbling upon one, even if it was dead. It's just such an amazing experience to see such a massive, almost prehistoric looking insect just out in the wild. It's awesome. And I have a sort of similar couple stories to making my girlfriend drive with me 2 hours south to catch these, because I've done a couple similar things when I was a kid and I couldn't drive myself. One story is when I was in Arizona with my dad, and we were staying in Flagstaff, and I heard about a town called Payson, Arizona that's kind of famous among beetle hobbyists for how many western Hercules beetles you can find here. And that's sort of a sister species to the eastern Hercules beetle. They're pretty similar looking. Their coloration's a little more gray, and the males tend to have longer horns, but otherwise fairly similar species. And I asked my dad if we could drive on the spot to go look under gas station lights to collect these beetles in the middle of the night. And I sort of just remember the frustration on his face as he was like, okay. And then we left at like 3 a.m. or something, and I ended up finding some beetles, which you can see here, and I mailed them back to myself, and it was pretty awesome. So memories like that have definitely led me to where I am now as an actual entomologist, even though I'm pretty early in my career. But those are the things you remember. So I'm glad I'm still continuing those types of adventures. I reared eastern Hercules beetles one time before, and this was another example of kid me begging someone to take me to an inconvenient place at an inconvenient time in order to get beetles, because my aunt had texted me that she found 2 female eastern Hercules beetles on her porch, and she lived in Virginia, and I just happened to be visiting my grandma who lived in Virginia at the same time, and I actually woke her up in the middle of the night and asked her to take me first thing in the morning before it got too hot so I could get the beetles from a Tupperware container off my aunt's porch. And she also went, oh, okay, and then she agreed. And then I ended up putting those beetles in a rearing tank, the exact same tank as this one, and I had 2 females then, and they laid eggs, and I raised those larvae, and then I ended up with a lot of adult Hercules beetles, and I ended up selling these for a ridiculously low price when I moved into college. So I've had fun with these beetles before. I reared them. I probably knew more then than I do now because it's been so long and I've forgotten. I sort of vaguely remember packing down the bottom couple inches of substrate in order to incentivize egg laying, but when I was looking through my kind of holy grail guide in order to prep this cage, Orrin McMonagle's Ultimate Guide to Breeding Beetles, which has taught me a lot of the things I know, even though it's kind of old at this point, so maybe some of this is a little outdated. I wouldn't be surprised. It's 14 years old. But I didn't find that line or anything mentioning packing down substrate, so I'm not going to worry about it. I think it'll probably be fine, and if they don't lay eggs after a week or two, then I'll start looking for things to change, but I'm not that worried about it. I feel like they're considered a pretty easy species to breed, and I have flake soil, which is kind of the gold standard of substrate for any rhino beetle as far as I understand, so I'm not really that worried about it. Once the tank was set up, I gave them some banana to eat, and then I'll probably check back in a week or two and start digging through the dirt to see if they've laid any eggs. And then about an hour after I got the beetles in the tank, I could already see the females burrowing around on the bottom, looking for hopefully a place to lay their eggs. So I'm going to take that as a good sign. I was just happy to get them in a bigger tank anyway, because I'm sure they were pretty stressed out all crammed in that small one together. Even if they don't lay eggs, I'm sure they're probably a lot happier in this 5.5 gallon tank now. And while I'm most excited about the beetles, I have also been rearing 2 species of caterpillars that I actually got for free from someone at work, which is really nice of her. But I've had these caterpillars for a while now, and I honestly haven't done a great job at documenting their growth. I have some pictures and videos of when they were tiny. As you can see from what I do have, I used to have a lot more caterpillars. My mortality rate has been kind of high, and I'll chalk that up to being a little rusty with my insect rearing, and I've also never really reared caterpillars at all before. I've always been much more of a beetle or just kind of bug pet person. I've never really been a big caterpillar person. So this was definitely out of my comfort zone, and I found it to be kind of frustrating actually, of how many leaves they eat, and you can't really stock up very easily. You can put some leaves in the fridge beforehand, but you can't just have a whole tub of leaves ready like you can with beetles and rotten wood or soil or whatever they need. So I found it a little difficult, and my mortality rate has been kind of high, but I'm slowly learning things. But the 2 species of caterpillars I have are Promethea moths and Polyphemus moths. The Polyphemus moths were a little older when I got them, so they were already hatched, even though they were pretty tiny. And they get huge. They have become massive. I only have 5 left at this point, and 3 of them have cocooned, so I still have 2 caterpillars left. And then I also have Promethea moth caterpillars, which are a little more interesting and colorful looking, but they're smaller. They sort of have this nice bluish green coloration to them, and these cool knobs that almost make them look like plastic. They have like the sort of red knobs on them. They look really cool. I like them a lot. And I have more of those surviving, and a lot of them are cocooned already, so I think I have several cocoons of those already. And then I only have 3 caterpillars left, I think it was, of those. 2 of them are massive. A lot of them cocooned at a smaller size, so I'm not sure if I wasn't feeding them enough or if something wasn't right about their care, which wouldn't really surprise me because I don't really know what I'm doing. I probably should have done more research, but I kind of just wanted to dip my toes back in the water of insect keeping, and I didn't want to get too in the weeds of all the specifics of it. So if I ever raise caterpillars again, I probably would try a little harder, but I'm still having success as far as it's going, so I'll take what I can get. One of the Polyphemus caterpillars cocooned way before the others, and it has this big cool cocoon up on top of the screen, which definitely caught my eye. And a lot of the other moth cocoons that have formed since then have been sort of curled up into dead leaves, which is what I expected in the first place, because that's what I read they do a lot of the time. And then in order to just make storage and my life a little easier, I was taking the branches that the cocoons were attached to and just cutting off any extra and keeping the cocoon. I'm not sure if the cocoons can just sit on the ground of the cage and that's fine, or if I'm going to end up having to pin them like in some way so they're hanging. I'm not really sure, but I probably have a couple weeks to figure that out until they start emerging, so I'm not really too worried about it, but I'll get there. So even though there's been some parts of it that are kind of annoying of raising caterpillars, I've really enjoyed how much you can watch them and just appreciate their colors and their behaviors, because with beetle larvae, they're always buried, so you don't really get to appreciate them as much. And then even when they're adults, they still are always burrowing around, so I've enjoyed that about the caterpillars for sure. And then you can see with the Promethea caterpillars as well, just how beautiful they are with that bluish green and those red knobs or whatever. I'm not even sure what function that serves, but they look really cool. I've become pretty well acquainted with what trees live near my house and where I can find them, because I have to get leaves for these caterpillars so often. And I sort of have a go-to spot now where every time I get home from work and I see the caterpillars don't have leaves, and I'm like, all right, it's time to go to the spot. And I just hop in my car and grab some leaves off a tree, which you can see me doing here. And then I bring them back. I rinse them off in the sink with hot water, which I think is just in case there's any like pesticides or anything else that could be on there that could harm the caterpillars. What I've been doing is I have a jar that I put either pebbles or like birdseed or just anything that is kind of heavy and like particulates basically. And then I have test tubes I fill with water, some like plastic with a rubber band, and then I shove the branch of leaves into the test tube so it has water, and because of the plastic, caterpillars can't fall into the water and drown. But frass got everywhere. I had to take these plates out. They're not really doing much because, especially in the wooden cage, I have to totally tip it on its side in order to get the plate out, and it just dumps the frass all over the bottom anyway. But I've been doing it for this long, I'm probably not going to change. I'll just put it back in the way it was, but I'm learning for next time, so it's fine. I basically just had a compost bucket with me that I was dumping all of the frass pellets and old branches and leaves into, because I've heard that the frass actually makes great fertilizer for your garden, and I've been gardening this year, so it's perfect. I eventually got everything all cleaned up and looking good. Caterpillars are probably happy to have food again, so yeah, we did it. I've actually sort of ended up in the field of vector biology or parasitology. My last job was working with mosquitoes, and now I'm working in a lab that tests ticks for pathogens. So I've strayed a little bit from my origins with beetles, and if you saw my paper there that I have published, my undergraduate research was actually on scarab beetles. And of course, Eastern Hercules beetles are a type of scarab beetle. So I'm still sort of figuring out what I want to do. I'm not exactly sure where I want to end up, but I do enjoy the parasites and the blood-sucking arthropods as much as I enjoy all the big cool beetles. So I don't know. I'm having fun though. And it feels great to be waking up every day and knowing that I get to at least think about insects in some capacity and get paid for it. That's what I wanted for a long time, since I started making videos on this channel, probably over 10 years ago now, maybe it was. But that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I'm not sure how often I'll be making videos. Maybe I won't make another one. Maybe I'll make a few after this. I'm not sure. But what I do know is I remember just how much it meant to me to be able to watch entomology and insect keeping videos as a kid. Even the most low quality videos of some other kid in his room looking at beetle larvae spilling dirt all over the carpet. Those are some really special memories to me. So just the idea of making videos for other kids or other people out there that just want to look at beetles and want to look at bugs, it means a lot to me. So if you enjoy these videos, let me know. I'm okay making them. And I might even make videos about starting your career in entomology or biology and just giving my tips. Even though I'm not super far along, I still feel like I do have some tips of getting yourself on the right track that could be helpful if anyone's interested in that. And I'll probably have more insect keeping videos as well, or even insect collecting if anyone's interested in that. But I'm happy to make more videos. I missed it. I definitely missed keeping insects. It was a huge part of my life for a long time, and it feels good to have it back. So hopefully update videos will follow with beetles or caterpillars or moths or whatever I end up with. But for now, that's pretty much everything. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.